All right, hi everybody again. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I finally, as much as I love Hans and my other panelists, I finally get to share the stage with a woman. So I'm very excited about that. And since we have Pooja here, I thought we would talk a little bit about what we're doing so we can help that whole scenario. So we're not talking about DEI as the subject, but we just thought we'd steal the panel time just a little bit to tell you some of the great things that we're working on as part of the board of She Runs It.
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with She Runs It, and so this is just Denise and I hijacking a panel about a passion project of both of ours. We're both on the operating board. It is a fantastic 111-year-old organization, and it's about helping women in media, marketing, advertising, and tech succeed at every level and stage of their career. But that's how it started, and it's for women and their allies and those that support them, so it is not exclusive that way. And it offers just so many incredible things for people at different stages of the career. Comcast Advertising is a corporate partner. We have a huge number of active members, and while we at Comcast have great programs for enrichment internally, there's networking, there's an external mentor program, which sometimes is really helpful because you need someone outside your organization to help you in your career. There is a coach's corner. There's a chance to actually hear great speakers, many of whom are at this conference, have spoken at our events. So I know there's a lot of companies here that I think are corporate partners. Really activate on it because there's so much there, and for others that aren't, I just think it's something to know about.
Show of hands. Did everybody know about She Runs It before today?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. But if you don't or didn't know about it, just come talk to us because we offer great programs for all of your employees as corporate partners. And as Pooja said, we have a great mentorship program. And through that program, we also offer scholarship money. So we've given out over $1 million in money for young women entering into the media and marketing field to pay back their student loans, their continuing education. So we're really proud of that. We have a lot of very generous benefactors, but that is a program we continue to do through the years, and it's something we take a lot of pride in.
I dig that we're starting our conversation about the modern media sales organization by starting with DE&I, as opposed to it being like, oh, and also DE&I, at the end of 10 minutes, because I feel like that's somehow what inadvertently often happens.
For sure.
And so just to that point, I do see that is a big part, coming back to our panel topic or our fireside chat topic, of what we're doing internally at Comcast, but also kind of what I see really smart, forward-thinking media organizations doing, which is making sure that they are leaning into the growing awareness that representation matters, that the same way that all of the brands that we work for ultimately are trying to make sure that they represent their ultimate consumers, that we, in our part of the chain, represent that consumer world too.
Yeah, I thought that was an amazing point when we were talking earlier that your sales organization really needs to represent your consumers, and I think that's a point that's often missed, not only in our industry, but in every industry. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you're doing now over at Comcast and how that plays into making sure that we are upgrading and updating the sales organization to reflect what's happening in our space.
Absolutely. So, backing up a little bit, I think that what's driving a lot of the changes and the evolution and transformation inside of media sales organizations is, the realization that we're moving into this, very data-driven, very audience-based, increasingly programmatic, and multi-screen TV ecosystem. Those are the drivers now, and they're different than they were in the past, and that's what we all need to kind of develop solutions for, skill our teams for, and actually structure ourselves around. So the first big thing I would say that we're seeing, and this isn't unique to us, it's just sort of across, great partners doing this, Viacom CBS is doing this, Dish is doing this, NBCU is doing this, which is, having sort of single solutions and in many cases single sellers bringing together linear and digital. And I know we talked about it for years, but it is happening, it has been done, and it's the right move. Related to that, though, is managing yield and revenue really holistically. So, mixing together and looking as one, indirect and direct, programmatic and traditional, and thinking about how you maximize across. And one of the things that's happening at Comcast Advertising that Freewheel is building and investing in a lot of technical solutions to make that easier for customers to do, for their customer base. To kind of have shampoo and conditioner in one bottle and still get a great wash. And that's a good example of a way that it's being supported, but that yield sort of mindset is very important. I think another piece of that is there's this growing openness and adoption and investment in different deal models, different capabilities, different solutions, and that manifests in a lot of different ways. You look at the move NBCU made, like hiring Kelly, who's phenomenal, and then building that practice. Not to say there wasn't a big practice there before, but really investing even further because data measurement and insights are so integral to advertising sales. The number of analysts that we see partners hiring, and we are hiring ourselves, investments in technology and technical upskilling for sellers has never been more important. And so I think those are all just sort of big macro trends, and we see them at a lot of really forward-thinking companies. In terms of things we're specifically doing, at Effective, we have invested to build a sales development arm. It's a new organization that is 400 people strong, partnering with sales to make it much easier and accessible to put together a really thoughtful, outcome-driven based, customer success at the forefront solution that goes across screens and considers audience. Because it's hard. Everybody, I think, for the entire day has been talking about how hard it is. We have to make it simple and we have to make it accessible, and that's what's gonna help the marketers that we serve transform their business, but we have to be there to kind of help them through it. Another big area of investment, we were talking about programmatic and traditional coming together. Freewheel has 10x'd their programmatic activation team to serve what they're seeing their partners and customers doing, right? Because that is so much more important to them, because they are looking for support in that area from partners like that, we have made that investment. So I think that those are some big things we're doing in terms of just structure and investment. And then going back to kind of where we started on the DE&I front, we got a lot of work to do as a company. We are working hard at it. It is an important thing at Comcast. We talk about it's not just DE&I, it's DE&I and B for belonging, right? Adding that last word, because that's ultimately the goal of all of it, is for that feeling to be had by people regardless their background and regardless of kind of their experience in your organization. And I would say that in addition to having really robust ERGs and really paying attention to the numbers and the data, similar things that I think a lot of companies are doing, two interesting programs inside of advertising, because what I see, and I see it across the board, is that we do a really good job, or not a really good job, but quite a good job of bringing people into our industry from diverse backgrounds. But at a certain point, as you go further up, the room just looks a lot different.
Right.
And so what are we doing to make sure that at all levels we have that representation, and also that we accelerate that change? And so two things we're doing. One is we introduced a program called Interview Allies. These are trained employees in operational roles, but they sit outside of the hiring group, but they join in the hiring process and they join in the interviews, and they're there specifically to look for and guard against bias creeping in unconsciously into the selection process. Like that's their goal there, is to challenge that. And then the second thing is that, kind of building off that, we created an internal ally network for employees that are inside the company to kind of create, guides, safe spaces, again, trained employees that are at all levels and very passionate about this, that can essentially help them navigate internally, because that's a really hard thing in these big companies. So, long answer, I'm sorry.
No, that's fantastic. You just kept covering all of my questions. But let's expand that out to a macro level. When you look at the general marketplace, where do you think we have to focus first?
It's a really good question. There's so much to do. I think the first place you have to do is you have to acknowledge that we are in a multi-screen world. Mm-hmm. That's the starting point. And bringing together that knowledge set and making sure that customers understand what's in it for them, and sellers understand how to speak to it in a sophisticated manner, and how to build solutions that are taking all of that into account, is really important. particularly in the TV industry, another thing we're seeing, really I think smart companies do is they're thinking about how they can be the bigger solution from the get-go. Realizing that nobody's doing business with one media company only for the campaign, and instead, in the case where they have data, for example, using their data to put together a package that extends their footprint, if you will, their inventory pool into other sort of like inventory to extend that audience, to extend whatever the experiences they're selling, and kind of bringing that proactively to the advertiser. That's not just multi-screen, that's reaggregating the scale and doing it to help the agency, to help the marketer, as opposed to just kind of putting that all on them to figure out how to do it. And I think that's a really forward-looking thing.
Right, and we'll be talking to Kelly Metz next to understand how she sees things happening, and are we doing enough? And maybe we might ask.
She's probably going to tell us we got a lot more to do.
Well, thank you, Pooja. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.